My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's Caramel Week.
Indeed, they call it mellow yellow. Oh no. Caramello.
Koala.
Oh god.
It don't sing mellow yellow. Donovan will want royalties.
I know.
Whereas the good folks at Cadbury,
exactly. They might.
They go with the flow.
They do go with the flow.
And our Canadians don't know what the fuck we're singing about.
No, caramello koalas, which, you know, if you want a nice, delicious caramel and chocolate treat.
They're real.
They're real.
They're like drop bears.
They're like the sweeter version of drop bears, except they come down and just pepper you with caramel.
Yeah, and they sing.
They sing, yeah.
They sing 60 songs, but with the word caramello thrown through the middle of it there.
Yeah, and might, hitch a ride.
On a train.
On a train. Or sit lounging in a tree like a real koala, but caramel-like.
I will tweet out a link to the Caramello Koala ad. I will tweet one out. So the
point of reference.
The poor Canadians going, what the fuck have they started with this week?
I think I'm going to go buy a Caramello Koala now.
Yep, so they come in multiple sizes too. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Although there are some Canadians who can actually give reviews on that. We sent them some.
Yeah.
So
my favourite size is the charity box size Caramello Koala. Like, not the piddly little one.
Yep.
But the big one.
Yes.
It's not as... Yeah, that's my
We can
favourite.
mention metric, by the way, because, of course, Canadians have real measurements.
I don't know what the grams are on it.
No, I mean in terms of, like, size. If you're looking at it, you're looking
Probably
at about...
5 centimetres?
No, it's bigger than that.
I don't know. My points of reference have been hugely altered by men throughout the years. I can tell you that.
So Caramel Week, huh?
Not you, my love.
I wasn't insinuating anything. I'm just, before you start getting into equating size with the men that you've known in your life, we move on.
Let's just say I did a lot of math.
So much math up that hill. Calculus was a... By the way, heard a lot about that. Thank you, everyone, for running with us on the math front. So, anyway, it was Caramel Week, if you didn't know. And what better to start Caramel Week than Alan Beat poetry?
It was... And what was so beautiful, there were butterflies flitting through the shot. And I'm like, you couldn't, like... They wouldn't have the production budget just to go and post that in, so...
If Anne... By the way, does not get to recreate some form of BTS clip.
I know.
Before the end of this series, I feel like she now needs just her own series just to do it.
Well, there's a perfect shoe-in because there's a BTS song called Butter.
Butter, exactly.
And at least her and Bruno could do some kind of...
mashup.
A mashup. Like, he's actual Butter, she's BTS Butter. It's waiting to happen.
That would be really, yeah, and like it would be a mashup about Butter with BTS and Bruno. No, not that Bruno. That could be amazing. Like, somebody get on that. Anyway, I really hope that Anne pitched it. I really hope that in every meeting she's like, what if? Just run with me on this. Anyway, before we start talking about BTS too far down the rabbit hole and start talking about, BTS and Lizzo at a Harry Styles concert, let's move on.
Who Dan Levy was also there, apparently.
Bake-Off links.
Bake-Off links.
All in there.
All relevant.
So, the Caramel... So, it's the first Caramel Week.
Yes. I thought it was great because I'm like, Chocolate Week, been done to death, and we know we're the shit for it because it's always raining on Chocolate Week.
And I'm very happy that they didn't go the other way and go Carib Week.
Oh.
Because nobody wants a Carib Week in their life.
Look, I think CBC would just instantly cancel Bake Off. They're like, there's an anti-Carib contract in there.
Oh, there has to be a clause that says no Carib.
Because, that's just...
Carib, the healthy chocolate. Automatically, if someone offers you Carib, distrust them.
Not just distrust them, like disown them. Like just shun.
Why?
Shun the Carib givers.
Why do I have this horrible feeling that Steve's going to reach out and go, I'm a big fan of Carib. Please don't do that, Steve. I really like you, and I don't want to have that happen where you go, I really like Carib. So, he had it on a yoga retreat once. Anyway, I do feel like yoga retreats and in Australia primary schools are the two places where you get Carib.
Oh, gosh. Like, I just feel sorry for when, like, Australia implemented the Healthy Canteen initiative. Like, everyone's like, worried about children making healthy choices, blah, blah, blah. What about just good life choices, which carob is not?
Never a good life choice. You know, you want a nice ringed iced donut and you want some form of chocolate. You don't want carob, and you don't want the other one, which was the carob buds.
Oh.
Now a carob bud, to our Canadian brethren, was ooey gooey chewy, but not in the way you want it to be.
More like ewy.
Yeah, and usually apparently it was rolled in coconut. Now I can't say for sure. It could have been lint. Mm-hmm. It could have been something that was just on the counter of the canteen and it got rolled in there. But it was ooey gooey with these white lumps. It was terrible. Look,
I've seen rabbit poo. I know what that looks like. and I'm not going to say that there was a rabbit plague in the 80s, but there was.
There was. It's why they built the rabbit fence, the Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
Keep the rabbits out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so thankfully no carob week, and we must thank the producers for that.
Yeah,
we get caramel week or caramel week. No, it's caramel week. That was the weird part for me. We got to the introduction, and Alan, within 15 seconds, said both caramel and caramel.
I just presume that it's pronounced differently in different parts of Canada. Or they did caramel because Bruno's there.
But after that one time, nobody else said it, except for when Stephen was doing, it's the age-old question.
Is it, though?
No, it's caramel.
Because inside the US, it's not a question. Outside the US, it's definitely not a question because it's caramel.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like aluminium.
I never trust American pronunciations because it's aluminium, not aluminum. They dropped letters, and it's a pergola, not a pergola. Anyway,
and they got rid of the U. Like the English spelt colour and hour. Oh, I guess they.
You were on a great point.
Well, I was trying to make the point that you don't drop the
hour without a U is whore. Back to math. Anyway, moving away from spelling and maths to Florentines, apparently. Now, we're not making some rakish cad. No one with like a whimsical hat and a feather in it, painting something under the patronage of the D'Amici family. That's not what we're doing here. No. We're doing the thin biscuit.
Yum. I love a good Florentine. And it was just a delight because I think, it was... You're going to get something delicious and there's scope for just putting your own little signature.
As long as you remember what side of the acetate you've actually got the... Sorry, Vincent. It was too easy. So you had to make 24, 2 different lots of 12.
Yeah.
And you had 2 hours in which to do this. Now, what I really appreciated was the reference to the Fallen. Now... Obviously, last week we unfortunately lost Dougal. We actually have a candle burning in the corner, so it's a bit like an ode.
I feel kind of like that was a bit sacrilegious, like starting the last post for someone who left Bake Off.
No, it was like a death. Anyway, I'm a historian. We're fine. No possible backlash on that one whatsoever.
No, the RSL is not going to ban us from going into any clubs.
Wouldn't be the first time. So, anyway, we lost Dougal last week, but as Steve pointed out, he left his honey.
Yeah, what a bequeathment. I wonder who got what.
I'd like to think, I mean, it could be a bequeathment, it could just be because he couldn't fit it in the suitcase. Like, what am I going to do travelling home with honey? Like, I've got honey at home. You have it. I can't be bothered. I'm stealing stuff from the back of Film Centre Toronto. Yeah. I've been in the main building. You got no idea what my bag's filled with. You think I got room for a jar of honey?
No, I can make room for more bunt tins.
I've flogged a bunch of tins. There's your one camera down for the rest of the shoot. I've been busy.
And bunting.
Don't come too close to me. It's COVID. You got to stand back. You can't check my bags. COVID. You can't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we start with Stephen, and Stephen had quite a week. Both in terms of, obviously, again, it's not a spoiler because you're Star Baker, but it was a weird Star Baker week. He was a bit all over the place. There was ups, there were downs, there were highs, there were lows, there were creamy middles.
Caramelly creamy middles.
Indeed. And there were also, as we'll get to during this episode across the course of it, Stephen was doing very weird things with words.
It was fine.
There was fine. Yeah, there were lots of different... I wonder if someone sent him a challenge. We'll get into it more in the technical. We'll get into it, but I wanted to sort of drop that in there now so we can all prepare to talk about what the hell was going on. Was it the buffalo sauce?
Yes. he's like, his brother reminded him and then set him a series of tasks, much like a taskmaster, of which I have spoken previously.
So obviously Stephen decided he did the normal almond and cherry. That was pretty basic and straightforward. But then he made a buffalo wing caramel.
I think that's great.
And I love Bruno and Kyla are like, what?
Well, okay, so I presume they have this overseas as well. But a lot of the glazed, battered dishes that you get in, like, from like Chinese restaurants are essentially a bit of a toffee. Like, your sweet and sour. I'm presuming that they have a sweet and sour sauce. The
honey chicken.
The honey chicken. The lemon chicken. It's all lots of fucking sugar.
Oh, well, okay. Funny you should mention that because you think you're the queen of tangents. Oh, boy. So I was once at the casino, not the Casino Regina. And by the way, we haven't sung Experience Regina enough. That will come at the end of this, by the way. We need to bring it back a bit. So, meanwhile, at the casino in Miscellaneous City, they've got a very nice Chinese restaurant there.
Yes, they do.
We had a group of us, we were all in uni, we'd pooled our money together for like a night at the casino. Just a night staying in the casino, enjoying the many facilities the casino hotel has to offer. I
imagine someone pawned a few of their textbooks.
Pretty much. John Merriman's History of Europe Volume 2 is very, very much something you can book a hotel room off.
Yeah.
Anyway, we go to the restaurant and we get the honey chicken, and it was really hot, so we left it and went to other dishes.
Yes.
When we came back to the honey chicken...
It was a croquembouche?
We couldn't... Forget a croquembouche. We couldn't get the fork out of it to serve it.
Oh, dear.
At one point, and I am not joking, I picked the plate up by the fork and waved it over my head.
Of course you did.
To show, because the waiter's like, "What?" And we thought, we can't get it off. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And we're like, "No, we can't." And he's like, "No, sure you can." And I literally picked the plate up by the fork, and I've got it upside down, and I'm waving it around my head.
Oh, dear.
And in the end, we couldn't eat the honey chicken. It was that much sugar and that much glaze, and it just set. It was concrete.
Well, maybe the chef out the back got mixed up. he's put the honey chicken...
Easy glue.
Mixed it up with a bit of Tarzan grip.
So, again, as you mentioned, Stephen's brother, said that you make buffalo popcorn for everyone.
Yeah,
you need to make that in the. He's like, okay, and then he did it as Florentines, and then made popcorn later on.
Yeah, I'm here for it, and I think this is why I think he got Star Baker. Like, there's always one or two episodes in a run where there's no clear Star Baker.
Yeah.
And you've got to look for the person who's having moments of brilliance.
And he did.
And he did. Like, his technical wasn't so great.
I'm pretty sure those Florentines were the thing that got him Star Baker.
Yep, and that's fair enough. We needed it. I'd give it to him based on that because of the flavour.
In a week where everyone's really packed tight, and you didn't really get any standout, and you didn't really get any mass disasters, we had a couple of problems.
Yeah.
If you have that one moment of brilliance in the episode, like the other week where it was a really good episode and everyone was tight, and Amy made the oven, obviously, and it didn't really matter what had happened in the other bakes because they were all packed so tightly, that became the standout element.
Absolutely.
So, at this point...
Congratulations, Steve.
At this point, we cut from the gravitas of Stephen discussing, this really cool idea that he's had, to a random Steve going, some of these nuts are really big. They did that a lot tonight too, and that was a deliberate choice from editing and production. They cut back to Steve just in time for him to say something very weird, and then cut back.
And also doing some voiceover work. We had Yoda, we had him Bruno impersonating.
Oh, we'll get to the Bruno impression. What a Bruno impression that is. And I'll get you to do some appraisal, actually, in a minute.
Okay, you're welcome.
So, you are the specialist. And remember, you have been crowned the Queen of Accenting. So, Vincent.
By myself.
No, you got an award, remember?
Did I?
Yes, from the International Accenting Institute.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's just so...
Yeah, remember Devon. I mean, the International Accenting Institute. Anyway, so Vincent went with black sesame paste and then a maple trail mix. His idea was a little bit of Asian heritage, a little bit of Canadian heritage.
Yep, love it. From China to Canada.
Exactly. Then they cut back to Steve.
There's things that men want, and they start with a C and end in an A. I'm referencing a random meme that apparently women want something beginning with P and ends in an S, and there's all these funny memes about it.
Completely. Petunias. Anyway.
Yes. Actually, that came up in an ecological...
Of course it did. So, Steve. Mm-hmm. Now, Steve made one in ode of his daughter's favourite smoothie, which was pecan, almond, and strawberry and banana. There was a lot going on in there. I thought potentially too much. I'm like, that's a lot of flavours in one Florentine.
But obviously his daughter likes it.
Yeah, but it's a smoothie.
But it's his daughter, and it's in Florentine. Bruno and Carla didn't say make a smoothie. They said make a Florentine.
So, again, save it for Smoothie Week. And before you go, when is there going to be a Smoothie Week? British Bake Off probably has done one at this point.
Yeah.
Given the fact they ran out of ideas years ago.
They're bringing in smoothies and juices.
And for those of you who listen to us who also watch British Bake Off, it's true.
Yeah,
admit
you
it.
know it is.
British Bake Off ran out of ideas a very long time ago. Anyway, I also like the pistachio and coffee tripos. That was clever. I thought.
Yes.
So
I hope he serves those at his yoga classes. Just shows it up each week. Like just there's a tree pose next week. It's warrior pose next week. Downward dog next week. Crouching tiger next week. Hidden.
I knew you were going that direction.
I'm trying to think of things that are funnier, and it's just not working. Maybe what's it called? Squatting koala. You've got to think about
squatting koala.
Handstanding wombat.
Upward badger.
Upward badger.
You've got to go for the comedy animals. A badger is a comedy animal name.
That's true.
All right.
A capybara is a quite...
I was about to say, what's the funniest animal name?
Mm-hmm.
Capybara.
Yes.
Ian Hecox has proved this.
A hopping capybara.
The hopping capybara. Yep, completely. I look forward to the hopping capybara very soon, Steve. But yeah, the pistachio and coffee tripos. I like the idea he could serve them at the retreat and then use them as a demonstration of what they should look like.
Yes. No, if you're doing it correctly, you get a Florentine.
Yes. What I do is I hold the Florentine up into my eye line, and if I can't see you because you've blended perfectly into the Florentine, you get a biscuit.
Look, I went to a wellness retreat once. This is many years ago. One of my favourite sports was annoying the girl who obviously hated fat people. And here I was, this fat person in this wellness retreat, and she just couldn't hack it. Anyway, so we were in yoga one morning, and I think I would have got out of bed for yoga more often if I knew that there'd be Florentines on special. But I was more of a... They all went to bed by 10 o'clock. Like, I'm like, you've got a pool. It's summer. It's beautiful and lit, so I got to go swimming naked in the pool because no one else was around. Sure, I didn't get to bed till 1 a.m. and maybe I did only just make it to breakfast every morning.
And maybe that impacted your wellness, but be that as it may, you got to swim.
Exactly. But that said, maybe these wellness retreats need a little something like a Florentine.
Have you been talking to Stephen with the something?
Yeah.
Blendy.
A blendy, tasty Florentini.
Florentini.
Oh my god!
No.
Now you need to get a martini with a Florentine, and it's a Florentini.
All right, any one of you, I'm looking at you, Vincent, given you had the booze. If anyone wants to make a Florentini,
yes,
like next challenge, okay. If you feel like it, you've taken one of our ideas.
It's
you don't have to use
bake
anymore.
and a booze rather than booze and a bake. It's bake and a booze.
Yep. So again, I don't believe you don't have to take it on. Obviously, you've done one of our bakes. We really thank it. But if you really want to do something out there on Instagram, bake in a booze.
Yep. Like think about this: a rum barber hot toddy or a hot toddy rum barber.
Oh, yeah, not booze in a bake. Bacon in a booze. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what. Don't have to take it, obviously. But we'd really like you to do it.
And it doesn't have to be the bakers. If you at home are just like, you know what? I'm going to shove my profiterole in my mudslide. Go for it,
Actually,
yeah,
that sounds like a really good idea.
Profiterole in a Toblerone, that's also got that.
Oh.
Yeah. Honey jumble in a Toblerone.
Okay,
Woo-hoo.
This is not just to the bakers now. This is to everybody listening out there.
Bake in a booze.
Feel free. Bake in a booze. put it up on Insta, put it on Twitter, hashtag bacon a booze.
Why has this not been done before? You know, that we've mixed booze into baking. Why not the other way around? Like, I'm here for it. Okay.
It'll be the taste sensation sweeping the nation.
It's the coming up to the festive season, right?
There's got to be use of gingerbread.
Oh my gosh, like gingerbread in eggnog. Like the boozy eggnog. Like just a full gingerbread house.
Drowning.
Just drowning. It's a flood. We'll call it an avalanche because it's like eggnog.
Okay, so moving on. But again, booze in a bake. No.
Sorry,
bake in a booze.
We're in silly mode. It has been
a week.
It's been a week and a day.
Yes. So, Amanda, cinnamon almond and orange walnut cups that she went with there. Yeah. Now, at which point, Alan comes over and is talking about... Then the host comes over and annoys you and she goes, oh, I've got Stephen behind me. I'm used to that by now.
And then comes the threat. Oh, well, Stephen, how would you like it if I just come over there and baked? Like, you don't want that.
And the answer is, Alan?
Yes, we do.
It's time to bake.
Time to bake.
Time to bake. Get out there, start baking.
What else are you going to put in your booze?
Now, Amanda's was in honour of her 25th wedding anniversary.
At which point I said, what'd she do, get married at 12? Like, is it... How do you know that? Are we just getting old? So, like, people who, you know, would be celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary look young to us because in our eyes, like, that's young now. Like, but when we were, like, 13, if I said, oh, my God, like, I'm 32, I'd be like... holy shit, like, you've got one foot in the grave, doll. Whereas these days, like, you know, I'm 41. I'm like, you know, I could start a whole new career if I want to.
I mean, to be fair, I do have a job where I get told on a daily basis that I'm, like, in my late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just looking at your aura rather than your biological form.
I've had a theory for a very long time that kids don't see age. No. They see stages and they can't
decay.
They can't comprehend anything over like 18.
Yes.
It all blurs into one.
Look, I can remember distinctly when I was, a 15, 16-year-old, you start plotting out your life. Now, let's all have a good old chuckle at this because you know we've all done it. It's like, turn 18. By the time I'm 20, I'm going to have my career set. When I'm 23, I'm going to get married. When I'm 25, I'll have my first child. And at 26, I'll have my second child. It's like, I'm looking at my nephew who's 25. Okay, he's got his career set, not a problem. He's got a wonderful girlfriend. And if they wanted to get married, I'd be like, you're too young. Like, just wait 10 years. Like,
and by 32, my public disgrace will be final. So, yeah, may all your disgraces be private. Anyway, tempering some chocolate.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're talking about Bake Off,
now, we are. So, I know this for some people is controversial, but it's not for us. We've talked about this before. Amy, well done. Use the bloody microwave to temper chocolate. It is a done thing. It is a thing that works. We've seen it on multiple shows.
I do it.
Yep.
Since I was a kid.
Yeah, I temper. It depends if I go. Like sometimes I do it on the stovetop if I'm really got the time, but otherwise, microwave works perfectly.
Yeah, I was just glad to see it represented on TV. It's
nice
to see representation on TV. You know,
we talk about the important representations on TV.
Yeah,
and again,
microwaving chocolate is one of those.
It is one of those. Now, I like the fact that Amy felt so guilty about it too. She felt the need to blurt it out in the judging. It's microwave.
And I think, it's okay to blurt that out. If you're blurting out, I'm microwaving bacon, that's something to be ashamed of. There is shame that should be associated, not with your...
No.
Yeah.
So, Amy was making almond, ginger and pecan, and she was doing the rainbow paper on the back.
That's genius. And why can't we coat everything in that in life?
I think we should.
Like, I just want to take it and just wear it. Maybe with some clothes underneath, because, I think I'll get arrested.
Now, at this point, we started to get some insight into where we were going this week. When Steve goes, well, are you coming out now? And opens it up and goes, well, yep, you are. You're burnt.
Yep, we reached that point in The Sims where the Sims have finally warmed up too much near the fireplace and are now charred to a crisp.
And on that, we got our first bakeries for the night.
We did.
Who needs fingertips?
Who does? In
this workaday world, who indeed needs fingertips?
I mean...
Those who use finger scanners.
I was going to say, a lot of us with, fingerprint
Phones
technology.
Yeah. You're right, actually. Actually, bakeries... A lot of people need fingertips, it turns out. So, yeah. Anyway, Amy did something that we were both shocked by, not because we've never seen anyone do it, but we didn't know this existed. When did they put underfloor air conditioning in?
I know. I'm so happy because I was so worried about the bakers. And obviously it must get too hot and overwhelm it.
Well, it was. We know. We've spoken to people who have told us how hot and overwhelming it is.
It makes me happy that that's there, and I
love them running over the tray and putting it on the air conditioning vent to see if it cools it down faster. It's genius.
Yes,
absolute genius. Now at this point, Amy was of course standing around because she was done. Steve then had a quick word to Amy, and so Steve turns around to Amy and goes, "Amy, would you like to paint some men?"
She's painting men.
Hallelujah, she's painting men. Every specimen. So, what I love to do, so he comes and goes, "I would love to paint some men, Steve. Get the good coating on them." And so then they did that, and then Steve obviously had to serve his own. He gave up. He's like, "I can't get him off here." Poor Vincent couldn't get the pattern to come off because he got half of them on the right way and then put half of them on the wrong way, so they didn't come off on the acetate. Meanwhile, Amanda hand-painted her pattern, which was a lot of extra work and probably something now she thinks back and goes, I should have just printed. And then Steve can't get it off, so he goes and gets the mats out and he just stacks them on top of each other.
They're yoga mats.
And it finishes, and that's where Amy goes, it's a yoga mat. Now, at this point, just before the judging, Stephen grabbed Amanda and Stephen toasted one of her extra Florentines.
That said, though, all those people sharing one yoga mat, it's not very COVID safe.
Not very COVID safe, you're right.
And even in people get very antsy if you touch their yoga mat. It's like this sacred little spot, and if you even just kind of get your fingers too close and invade the aura of their yoga mat,
Steve should know that.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to change the culture in yoga. Sharing is yogaring.
Sharing is yogaring. So Stephen and Amanda toasted one of her Florentines, and they ate it. And Stephen looks at her and goes, "That's lovely." And Amanda's like, "Thank you for lying to me," which I absolutely adored. Anyway, The judging. Amy. They said it was mesmerising. Had a very nice snap on the pecan. She had some puffed rice in there and it gave really good texture. The ginger and the almond was very well balanced and the chocolate was well tempered, and that's when she blurted out, "It was in the microwave." Vincent, they said the sesame, as he would know, works beautifully in this, so it's a really good balance. They said that the maple wasn't over sweet and it was very snappy and very crunchy, which he said was just like him. Amanda, they said they looked hand-painted, and she's like, because they are. They said that they were soft, slightly burned, but in a nice way. Sure. They said that the second one was nice, but very sticky on the teeth.
That's very Canadian. They're slightly burnt, but in a nice way.
I like the burning. I like the burning.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the burning. It's delicious.
I'm a fan of the char.
Yes.
Then Steve, they said, what happened? He goes, time got away. They said that the coffee was too strong and a bit chewy, and I'm sorry, judges, but I need to call you up on that. There is no such thing as coffee that is too strong.
You know what? There is such thing as dishwater served up as coffee.
There really is.
So yesterday, you've never seen a man who looks more disappointed than my husband when he is served a long black that I'm sure they kind of just wafted over the coffee grounds, or maybe
I'm used to a black coffee, which is really strong. We use good quality beans, really strong,
nice and punchy. Yeah.
Yes. Instead, it wasn't even really dishwater.
Is it when they they rinse out the machine
and
the water comes out? Do you think that was their long black?
Maybe. I mean, it was very much like the Simpsons joke of good gravy, thank you. It's just brown and water. I mean, that was what the coffee was. It was just brown and water.
And the sad thing is, right, is that it was a dessert bar and they had the most delicious desserts there.
Yeah, there were some beautiful desserts, but there were some absolutely beautiful desserts. But unfortunately, the coffee was not of the highest quality. And we're back with a weird edit point.
Sorry, people. Our lovely neighbours have just returned home from a holiday and set alarms off. So
that was about a 10-minute break?
It was. So in that time, Chris has now gone to wash the memory of dishwater coffee.
I literally made a coffee. It's spoiler alert here. It's 8:52 p.m. on a Monday night. I've just made a coffee. So who needs sleep? Anyway.
I know, overrated.
Stephen. So Stevens, they said, had good detail. It was pure class, as Bruno described it.
Yes.
They said the sweet taste was really good and was good chocolate. And then we got to the savoury.
Mm-hmm.
And they said it had a very nice snap. And Bruno said it gave him wings.
It's like Red Bull in Florentine form.
Yes, and Red Bull immediately sued Bruno.
Yes, the estate of Red Bull.
The estate of Red Bull.
As opposed to their lawyers.
Yeah, just a house. Yes. Anyway, the technical. So the technical was caramel donuts.
Yum.
So
not my favourite. I'm more of a gem donut lady.
And I like cinnamon. So cinnamon or a normal glaze. But so I didn't mind the donut. The reason I didn't mind the donut is there's enough pressure points in the bake to test them out.
Yep.
They are far trickier than you think. I thought that there was a missed opportunity here because if any other week was Bruno going to bring back creme caramel, this was the week.
I don't think he's gotten through the trauma of it though.
I think
he's still working on it with his therapist.
Look, we did talk to Bruno about the creme caramel when we talked to him last time, and don't think he's over it.
There's PTSD there, and we should just let him just work through that and come back to it if he can.
Yeah, they went with a baker's.
When he feels
they
safe.
wanted a baker's dozen, otherwise known as the number of contestants in a British series, because we need to make the series go longer now. Taking a lot of pot shots at British tonight, aren't I?
You really are just like the.
I'm not over Japan week from last year. I'm just not.
You really.
Which, by the way, we stopped. For those wondering. We started the last series of British.
We did.
And we stopped after Japan week.
It was...
Because it was so insulting.
Look, COVID, 2020 was a hard year for all of us.
Especially Bake Off.
Made harder when British Bake Off just went, well, we're just...
Asian flavours, folks.
Yeah, we're just going to... fuck you, viewers.
Yeah, don't care. So 13 yeasted donuts, and this was the first pressure point, was the yeasted dough. Filled with praline pastry cream in 1 hour 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. Now, the instructions were very largely missing, and that was a thing, and we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But at this point, we got a far more important statement.
We did.
And we need to discuss this in great detail.
Okay.
Bakeries admitted that she's never made a donut. Fair enough.
Okay, fair enough.
And has never used a deep fryer.
I just love that. I love how rustic PEI is sounding through the eyes of Amanda. No, the only, I'm going to call it baklava, but it's not. That's another, Middle Eastern area delicacy, but we're really talking about babka, which is an Eastern European delicacy. She's kind of presented PEI as a bit of an area that has not experienced a lot of things, and now I really hope that tonight, spoiler alert, when she went home, they sent her home with a deep fryer, at least. She returned triumphant on the boat. I presume rowed or sailed by Joe, the boatman, the ferryman. Joe. I know back to PEI.
I know for a fact that they don't. I know for a fact they don't have babka makers.
No.
We know that. The idea that there's no, even though they've got all of this really cool food and
Seafood and stuff.
and a lot of Scottish tradition obviously blended in too
yeah.
there. How did the Scottish tradition of deep frying shit not make it? Because it's a very Scottish tradition.
Yeah, but that's new technology, you know. That's.
Oh, we're talking old world frying.
We're talking old world, you know, like, okay, because it's known immigrants, when they go to an area, become even more of that culture and stuck in a certain time period than the actual country they've come from.
Are you suggesting deep fried curries in northern Scotland?
Yes, yes, I am.
Cool, wonderful. If anyone's been there, please. But no, I get what you're saying, but I find it a little sad that she doesn't have a deep fryer.
No, but the joyous thing is, right, she's going to return. So Joe the ferryman is ferrying her back in triumphant
The 7.5 people will applaud as she turns
to the PEI pier, I presume.
Yeah, Wendy comes out.
Wendy comes out leading, the marching band that's behind her of,
Two people.
Of two people.
Two one-man bands.
They get two one-man bands.
Not one-man band. Two one-man bands. One of them's got the brass section and one of them's got the woodwinds covered.
They've got the good cart, led by the best Shetland on the island. And much like the inanimate carbon rod on The Simpsons, the deep fryer is going to take place, pride of place.
Paraded
of Amanda.
Paraded through the streets by the one Shetland.
Yes.
Just pulled down the main street. There's only one. PEI.
Okay, do you want to... Okay. This is a very, very far tangent.
We don't have long tangents. Go on.
This is crazy historical parades, right? So in Miscellaneous City, in possibly the next kind of municipal council area over, which is also named after an English soccer team called Liverpool. They, in their history museum, they talk about when this specific bridge was opened, and it's very, how can I put it? It's very much the colonizer trying to be inclusive, but just failing miserably in the 1800s by having a local young Aboriginal boy ride an emu across the bridge as part of the opening.
Oh dear! I mean, at least in our municipal area, they just celebrate a dead guy pointing out where a body was in a paddock.
I know, we have Fisher's Ghost. Where a drunk guy goes, I know where the body is because the ghost told me.
Yeah, not that he put the body there.
And he's, the telltale heart.
The ghost of Frederick Fisher pointed to where his corpse lay, and the drunk guy saw it. The drunk guy killed him, guys.
And this is what I love the most, right? Is that the big finale to the thing is, and Fisher's ghost was never seen again.
Of course it wasn't. He sewed it up. Anyway, back in Pavilion.
No, I don't think we've deep dived enough into historical and small country town parades.
Save it for the podcast when we do that. We've got a small town parade podcast coming out soon. It's called Marching Through Municipals. Anyway, municipalities, sorry. Anyway, Stephen, this is where Stephen started his run. Where he turned around first of all to the camera and went, "You want the yeast to thrive and be alive." And then he let out a Chewbacca sigh. Yeah, he did that 3 or 4 times. And
it was very Star Warsy in the tent tonight. That was the start of it. And then there was a Yoda later on with Steve.
And he also then said, "We don't want lumpy bumpies." Some people disagree. And after that, he then suggested blitzing the nuts because he went, "That'll make it nice."
Yes.
He was very much like, again, I don't know if you remember on Sesame Street, Vincent Twice.
Yes.
Vincent Twice. Who just said everything twice. Everything twice. I wonder if Stephen was channeling Vincent Twice.
Absolutely. And I think we can just imagine the takes that didn't make it in, like the Blendy Wendy's when he was talking about
that'd be great.
Grinding up the nuts.
There are a few others who'll come to it in a moment. By the way, if you're following us tonight, well done. The instructions were things like, make pastry cream.
Oh, brilliant. Classic Canadian.
I love it when they do that. We then got, again, not to be outdone, you mentioned Steve, who then randomly goes, "Hello, corn syrup."
This is it. I feel like Steve's other job is going to be, a future in voiceovering,
Well, as the queen of accenting.
Oh, I think he's doing a bang-up job.
Now,
we will come heartbeat.
We'll skip ahead a little bit and we'll come back because I do want to talk about now the moment, which you need to judge.
Okay.
I think we can see that this Becca has had some inconsistent. Steve's impression of Bruno. I thought it was really good.
There was a moment I'm like, is that Bruno? And it wasn't until I realised that they're focusing on Steve and what he was doing that I'm like, it's not Bruno. It's a foreshadowing. But what I found really interesting in the judging, it was Kyler.
Kyler said it. But he was right with what they said. Wrong judge.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard him do a Kyler impression yet. Maybe that's next week.
Next week. Yeah. He lives to see to voice another judge.
Now, in this challenge I put down, and now we make the glaze, and then nothing happened. And I went, and now we fry. And we got two different versions of that. You got Amy, and they just looked perfect.
Yeah.
And they kept cutting back and forward, I think rather unfairly for poor Amanda.
Yeah.
Because they cut to Amy and they're looking perfect and they're amazing and they're incredible. Then they cut to Amanda and she goes, well, that's a fritter. And then she has the next couple. And they're all weird shapes and weird textures. And they come back to Amy and she's got these perfect looking donuts. And they come back to Amanda and she's like, well, that's not working at all, really. And I'm like, that's so cruel. She's never used a deep fryer.
Like, come on, the fact that it's frying should be awarded.
Because then Stephen over her shoulder went, they're fine. And Amanda just goes, nothing is fine.
Look, the good thing is that, if it wasn't a technical, she could have gone away with, I don't know if they do it in the bakeries over. Oh, they would, because they do like the clawfoots and stuff at the Tim's and clawfoots, bear claws. Yeah. And stuff. Like, in our local bakeries and donut shops, they'll have things like dinosaur-shaped donuts and people-shaped donuts.
She could have said they were all shaped like PEI.
Yeah, the PEI donuts. They wouldn't know. They're a regional donut.
They're full of lack of technology and lobster. Anyway, we finished this challenge with everyone being absolutely delirious. And everyone is dying of laughter. And Vincent just looks at the camera and goes, so bad. And Amanda just looks and goes, they're going to send us all home.
There was this moment, I'm just like, Kyler and Bruno turn around and go, well, this year we do not have the last two shows. We are just declaring Amy as winner of Bake Off.
We are picking someone at random. Whoever does the best donut, we're picking them. You win. Vincent, inconsistent in shape and size. The glaze was dripping off. The cream was smooth. And there was very light on the praline in the cream, though. Amanda, they said some looked more like Yorkshire puddings. Very nice shine, however, on the glaze. Inconsistent inside the filling, but the dough was actually quite good. Mm-hmm. Amy's were inviting. They were gooey and delicious. They were textbook filling. And as Kyla said in the judging, that's how you make a donut. Stephen had issues with the shape and the size, and there was a bubble inside them and it was overproofed, which he called out when he was doing them. He pulled them out and he goes, they're overproofed. They lacked the pillowing effect inside, and they said, well, we're digging a deep, we're working hard to find the caramel flavour, and it's not really there.
And in Caramel Week, that's not what you want to hear.
And then we cut to Steve, and they said the top had a nice shine, but it was very inconsistent. The dough was dense, and the pastry cream was burnt.
Look, it's in technicals like this, right, that you can really see some people who you'd want on your Commonwealth team for a very specific skill. Now, Steve, you'd want him there to do the glaze, because obviously that was the best glaze. Amanda to make the dough, not to fry the dough, but to make the dough. So you can actually pull people out with their skill set.
It goes back to, my Commonwealth Games theory works. Here, you could have people for different phases of the bake.
Oh, yeah. It'd be like a MasterChef.
And if you're a new,
what's it called?
And if you're a new listener or one of this season's bakers and you haven't heard the Commonwealth Games idea, go back through the archives. There's an entire episode dedicated to how I'd run the Commonwealth Games of baking.
Yeah.
With British, Australian, and Canadian bakers.
Mm-hmm. And if we had to flesh it out as a push, if we just wanted some of how we always talk about sending, a random crew member home in that first week, we could bring in South Africa and New Zealand.
Yeah, we're bringing the Kiwis. Anyway, Stephen was fifth, Steve was fourth.
I think the Kiwi bakers would do well.
Yeah, well, they had real challenges.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, they would 100% do well, though.
Yeah.
We know some of them.
That's why we
Clayton
need the
and that
South
were really good.
Africans
Well, we don't like the South Africans, yeah. If you've never seen South African Bake Off, by the way, don't. It's largely a group of people who have clearly never been in their own kitchen before, and they're not used.
Help.
They're not used to cooking without help. Literally help. So Stephen is 5th, Steve was 4th, Vincent was 3rd, Amanda was 2nd, and Amy was 1st, winning her first technical, which is a surprise. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, hang on, because Steve won most of them. Yeah. Now, as they said, Stephen had the best signature but the worst technical. They mentioned Vincent was really good, middling. Amy's was really consistently good.
Yep.
They did not mention Steve and Amanda once, and I'm like, oh dear, not what you want. Now, the showstopper.
Yes.
Here's where we're going to differ.
Yes, we are.
I didn't like the showstopper.
I thought it was great.
Right. I understand the concept they're going for. Mm-hmm. The funny part was, a baker made the concept I would have made them do.
Yep.
Which is a croquembouche.
Yep.
I would have made the showstopper a croquembouche, possibly, or something else. I just figured we did a multi-tiered cake in Cake Week.
Yeah.
We then did another multi-tiered cake, just caramel forward for Caramel Week.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact we just did another multi-tier.
I'm fine with it. You know why? Because it gave carte blanche it gave enough boundaries, but also enough creativity for the bakers to show different skills and different ways to use caramel, which is exactly what we got. We got everything from sugar work, we got the croquembouche, but we also got miso caramel buttercream. We got caramel popcorn, of course. What are some other caramels that were there? So we got different types of caramel cakes. We got some dulce de leche done in a pressure cooker.
I get where you're going with it, and I agree to some extent, but I also feel like
it's not a technical.
But I also agree that you could have done something other than it didn't need to be a croquembouche. I suggested a croquembouche because it's the most obvious way to do it, and you could still make them do different. They could still do different techniques.
Yeah, but there's only so much you can do because it's just sugar work and a filling and a sticky. A sticky caramel to stick it together. A gluey caramel. Much like your honey chicken.
Yeah, much like the honey chicken. Okay, so anyway, we're going to disagree on this, so we'll move on. Caramel layer cake, 4 hours.
I think people like to hear us arguing, so we don't do it at home. We actually don't argue.
No, we don't. I personally, again, I will stick by my idea that there should have been a croquembouche more than like just Steve's croquembouche. Something where and that's what the reason why I wouldn't have minded the croquembouche was, apart from caramel being the key flavour, you make it structurally integral.
Yeah.
So you make sure, like, in other words, the caramel has to be good enough, apart from the flavour, to also then act as part of the bake structurally. Whereas I think in the cake it didn't necessarily need to, and you saw that most of it was sponges with some caramel toppings.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine, because it was carte blanche. As long as it was caramel forward, because we're using that term, it was fine. Like, for example, Amy's cake, which if the dulce de leche had worked, would have probably landed her in Star Baker, but it didn't. So she's behind because why? She used a chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Not caramel.
But we had a lot of this, so let's get into it. So Amanda...
Okay, sorry, doll.
So Amanda did a pumpkin chai tea with orange caramel cake. Mm-hmm. Right? The orange caramel cake was very much a secondary part of her bake. It was really the pumpkin chai tea cake, and the pumpkin in particular, that was the thing that ended up dominating. And she did give some great advice, bakeries, which was don't shred your fingers. That's
great advice.
Look.
And look, if you're going to go out on, Caramel
wisdom.
Week,
yeah.
leave with a bit of wisdom.
But interestingly enough, can I just point out that in the showstopper, she said, don't shred your fingers.
Yeah.
And in the signature, she asked who needs fingertips. So was she learning across the course of this, or does she give bogus advice?
Okay, here she is. Who needs fingertips? After that, she's gone to check her phone, realised she'd burnt her fingertip off, couldn't access her phone, couldn't remember her PIN, and she's like, fingertips.
Do you think that the PEI baker has phone technology that involves fingerprint scanning?
Look, she might have discovered it on her wanders through, the local city during the downtime. She's gone to see the wonders of the modern world.
Much like we've now suggested that Dougal flogged things from the television centre. She's taken a phone. Look,
it's like... when Steve Rogers comes back in Wonder Woman 1984 and starts looking at a modern bin as if it's some form of artwork, she's there appreciating what's around.
Now, how you made the joke before about Blendy Blend?
Yeah.
He actually said it.
Oh, yes.
It was before his night at the movies thing, he talked about Blendy Blend.
Oh, cool. Look, I just think there needs to be more Steven talk.
So, caramel chocolate marble cake with a miso caramel filling.
What's his bedroom talk like, though? Because
I don't know. And
his math talk, sorry.
Math, thank you.
His math talk.
How is he when he discusses equations?
Yes.
When the algebra comes out,
yes.
What's he like?
He's a decimal.
He's a decimal.
Time to be alive and divide.
Long division time. Anyway, Steve made a hazelnut brittle, a croquembouche, and then there was the general brittle around the top of that as well. Mm-hmm. I liked the croquembouche. I liked his idea, and the shoe looked really good. He made a really good shoe pastry. Vincent was using apple brandy, so automatically should win.
Yes. I love the fact he did what they call a caramel apple, but we call a toffee apple.
Toffee apple, yeah.
Oh, and that just made me want a toffee apple. So I'm off to, I don't know if they sell them like we do here in Australia, but if you go to like a proper fruit and veg
they'll sell them, yeah.
Shop, you can pick them up.
Yeah, they just sell them.
In either, a very natural looking green or a very natural looking red, and by that I'm being very sarcastic.
Yeah, that red's not luminous at all. Anyway, so it was Halloween themed with the candy apple shards and the chocolate cake. Mm-hmm. Now, Amy was making the dolce de leche in the pressure cooker.
Yes, which I said, well, I know what's happening to our pressure cooker this weekend.
Probably in all likelihood.
I think I've seen that done.
I've seen it done.
But it's I've seen it kept in the tin. The
top and fill, yeah.
The top and fill kept in the tin. Was it top and fill though, or was it condensed milk?
Condensed milk, yeah.
Yeah, kept in the tin and boiled away.
Yeah, I've seen it boil. That's the way that they normally end up doing it is you boil the tin in a thing of boiling water and then you open it up and it's already done for you.
Yeah.
But I liked what she did with it in the pressure cooker. I actually really liked that one.
I'd like to see that done properly. And then maybe like some toffee apples served with it. Just saying.
Not giving me any ideas for the weekend at all. So
or orders.
No, none. Peanut brittle and chocolate cake, and then she made bananas Foster. Now, what are bananas Foster, I hear you ask? Brown sugar and rum sauce.
Oh, and she was like talking about how you put it on top of ice creams, and you could just see like Alan's mind explode. Like, where has this been all my life? And
that's what she said. She goes, and you're welcome for me bringing this to your life.
Yeah.
So we also had Amy doing pointy peanuts. Now, that's a risk.
Look, she wasn't putting it on a jousting.
There was no jousting medieval night. And again, go and just look up Bake Off jousting medieval night, and you'll understand what we're talking about.
Penis.
Now, we haven't seen sponge toffee since week one.
No.
But Stephen, however, brought it back. After Steve was saying, and if you add a bit more bicarbonate soda, what you get is sponge toffee. Cut to Stephen going, and poking it.
It's like, it's alive, it's a monster. And I'm like, oh, what a delicious monster. I'll have that like in my corner closet. That'll be the monster in my closet. Just a delicious... It'd be like, hey, Kristie, stop eating me. Like the monster would be afraid of me. If it was the monster under my bed, well, it would just be like fretting bedtime because I'd be like, just break me off a bit of that. Nom, nom, nom.
See, we've watched so much Office, by the way, that you went break me off a bit of that, and in my head I went fancy feast. Anyway,
poison gas.
Chrysler car. Now, poor Amanda, she had a stencil.
Oh.
The cakes were too hot, and at this point she was in big trouble. The cake was too hot. She tried to do the stencil. It just pulled it all away.
Yeah.
We then got, once again, we got another Amanda contrast. I felt they did this to her too many times. They did Vincent going, I like things neat, and he's very precise around the outside. Cut to Amanda's realisation that her cakes can't stack.
Yeah.
And she's pulling them apart, and the layers are all coming off, and the icing is falling off. And I'm just like, we're mixing that back to Vincent, and Vincent's doing more of the like crafty work, and then we cut back to Amanda, and she's got like bits of cake in her hand, and you're like, oh, that's not fun.
It was that point I'm like, if Steve's is solid, Amanda's most likely going home.
And the
last it was touch and go when they did judge Steve's.
Well, the last big moment as well was Vincent. So like he puts that caramel ring on top, and you just crack.
That little crack. Yeah.
And again, Steve wasn't quite finished yet.
No.
But Steve comes running over and grabs. So, and as he said later on in the judging, he's like, Steve came over and like held it together, and Amanda threw me a blowtorch.
And there's Amanda, having her own set of crises, and anyone got a blowtorch? Amanda's like, yep, here's one. Like it was just.
And then Vince's trying to work out how to use one.
The love in between the bakers in this series is just a delight.
Oh, they clearly get along so beautifully. Yeah. So, Stephen, they said it was an intriguing idea, an interesting design. Mm-hmm. It was leaning over, however. But the caramel was holding on. Buttercream was amazing. It was a very rich cake, but they nailed everything inside.
Yes.
They said the outside, net, but the inside, perfect. Steve, they said the butterfly on top that he did was absolute. And they didn't show a lot of the butterfly. The butterfly was stunning. They said it was a nice shine on a well-stuffed shoe. Mm-hmm. Sponge was light, but the caramel flavour was lacking in the sponge.
And that's the point where I've gone, could go either way between him and Amanda.
With Amy, the cake looked good. They said it tasted like a chocolate peanut candy bar, and they said that was a bit too sweet.
And there was nothing, like the dolce de leche wasn't there to break through.
In that second layer, the pecan and the bananas were like crumbling away. It was like a dry dust.
Yeah.
The dolce didn't break through. The bottom was really crumbly. As they said, you've got two brilliant concepts there.
Yeah.
And if you'd balance between the two of them, you'd have one perfect cake.
Look, I reckon, I'd like to feel that she's gone away and made it again and it's come out just bang on.
Amanda, the concept was good, but it was very unfinished. Mm-hmm. The orange with the chai is very good, but the chai was light. Mm-hmm. But then Kyla did say that her pumpkin cake, if it was a pumpkin cake challenge, it's the most perfect pumpkin cake she's ever had.
Yeah.
So something good to go out on. Vincent, they said there was a nice repair on that decoration. The apple in the cake was very nice. The chocolate cake was too moist. And the chocolate toffee, however, was delicious. Yeah. So the judging, look, I think Star Baker and Home were both very close run things.
Yeah.
I think if Amy's bottom layer of her cake was a bit more moist,
she probably would have
she's
got
Star
there.
Baker. But Stephen gets Star Baker, and look again, we said they rewarded creativity.
Yeah, and just someone having that bright shining point in the episode, and that was the buffalo Florentine,
which were amazing.
Buffalo
Florentine. In the heart of Canada. and more importantly, because he wins Star Baker.
Yes.
And we haven't done it since episode 1. 1, 2, 3. Regina! Experienced Regina! One more! Regina!
Stephen is from
Experienced Regina! There we go. We got another one out there. We haven't done it in a bit. And obviously then, unfortunately, back to PEI. But back to PEI to a hero's welcome with a deep fryer and a Shetland pony.
And, memories and fondness and a whole bunch of new friends and a phone that she can show everyone and show them the magic of the modern world.
The wonder of technology.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, the wonder of technology, Bakerties will take all that back with her as Amanda returns to PEI. Mm-hmm. It's a long journey. It's a wonderful journey, obviously. She's had a wonderful journey inside the pavilion.
She'll just have to go and console herself with lots of delicious, delicious lobster.
Yeah, if only you can cope. How are you going to cope? I don't know, lobster.
You know what would suck? If you had a crustacean, like a shellfish allergy and lived on PEI.
Oh, you'd move. You'd take that Shetland to PEI dock.
I wonder if it's like, you get shunned and cast out from the island. Oh, your bad luck. You've been cursed by the PEI gods.
There's not a wicker man. There's a lobster claw.
Yes.
And you're just put inside a giant lobster claw and pushed out to sea.
Joe the ferryman just takes you so far and says, you're on your own now. This is as far as I can take you.
Joe the ferryman's never had as much coverage. And with that, we end it here, folks. We will be back next week for semi-final week.
Oh, I can't believe we're here already.
It has gone very quickly.
Look, I was mentioning to my colleague today at work, I'm like, I haven't processed 2020 yet, and we're staring down the barrel of 2022.
I know.
Like, it has just been... and everyone's gone through it, it's...
Time is relative.
Time is totally relative. I'm looking forward to...
Talking heads were right.
Yes, I'm looking forward to Christmas, which I'm sure is next week at this stage.
Pretty close to it. And on that, we are going to leave it there for this week. Thank you, everybody, if you've stuck with us through the chaos that was this episode. Mm-hmm. We'll be back next week for semi-final week, which is going to be French Patisserie Week. And until then, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We will catch you all later.
It is Steve coming to the podcast to do my own accent, mate.